provide access to justice, and our main focus to this is early child marriages and succession. So we offer legal services to women who have gone through succession issues, and succession issues being a lot of matrimonial properties, and we also help them get what are these? Sorry, I forget the word. We also help them get the title deeds, sorry. And then for the early marriages, we help young girls we reintegrate them back, technically after they've gone through the whole early pregnancy, or they've been forced into marriage. We try as much as possible to reintegrate school. So we take them through maybe a vocational training, or if someone wants to go back to high school, we also try and get assistance for that. And so one of the projects that we have currently, we are running it in a slum called Mukuru, and it's for early mothers. So you'll find most of the girls that we have, in fact, when they come for the sessions, they come with their children. So it's a session for young girls who have children, and the girls are below the age of 18. We also do a lot of legal empowerment. Yeah. So our intervention, as I said, it's girls' education, empowerment, policy development, and legal awareness. I'll speak on girls' education. As I said, we reintegrate them back into school. Empowerment, we try, for the women who have gone through the succession issues, we take them through a training on how to, technically, there's an issue that we have in this country whereby women are not allowed to work. And if they work, whatever proceeds they get, they give them to their husbands. So a lot of times, maybe you'll find the husband is the one who's richer than the woman. So a lot of times the woman grows not knowing how to take care of their money or their... So we try as much as possible maybe to give them that skill so that by the time now we're helping you get your land back, at least you're able to know how to use it or what to do with it. And we also do policy development. We've participated in policy development in this country. We've gone through the youth policy. We've participated in the Nairobi youth policy in this country. Gosh, I forget, sorry. And the legal awareness also, we do legal awareness. As I said, we do a lot of legal clinics whereby we teach and we also take up cases that we go through till completion. We've partnered with organizations such as Ahadi Kenya Trust, Ushiriki Wema, under the Office of the Spouse of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Plan International, Gatundu South Constituency, Office of Gender and Affirmative Action, Youth Alive Kenya, Nafisika Trust, and Rotary Club of Lavington Gioni. These are some of the projects that we have done. Yeah. Yeah, I just didn't think I should. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, and that is the end of my presentation. Oh, and our presence has been felt in Kibera, Kahawa West, Mukuru Sinai, Mathare, Sagana, and Mwea. Thank you very much. That was my presentation.
Thank you so much. Again, if there are any questions, networking. You can come through, sir. You can start by telling us about your excursion in Zimbabwe.
Good afternoon, everyone. I don't know whether yeah, so if you move to the next slide, I'll just... Okay. Yeah. So to start with the introductions, I'm called Otsieno Namoya. I work for Human Rights Watch. Human Rights Watch is, we work in about 27 countries in Africa and slightly more than 100 across the world. but I think Africa is where we do the most number of countries. And we basically document human rights violations and do advocacy work. So working with organizations like the African Union is very important to us and how it responds to our work. So I had suggested from, so it will take me time to know what to do with this. Okay. So I had proposed to look at my presentation from this perspective, generally around the continent, conflict situations, our work on conflict situations, and our engagement experiences with the AU around conflict situations. And then at elections, maybe that's when I might talk about a little about our experiences in Zimbabwe and accountability. So I might cite some examples from countries that we come from, but that's simply for illustration, not for use outside here, because sometimes I may go into details that might not be necessary out there. To Webster as to whether here we are going to observe the Chatham House rules, that I can be able to explain our work from there better. So let me see if it works for me this time. Okay. No, that's not this last slide. Yeah. So I wanted to mention that in our engagement with the AU, we realized that the approach to the kind of work that interests us is very siloed. While we talk about human rights, the AU would talk about peace building issues, which basically fall under APSA, and then governance issues, which basically fall under AGA, and then human rights is looked at in a very siloed way. But in reality, these issues cut across. So sometimes we engage across board. There are some ongoing discussions around APSA. I think the AU team might know better, and AGA, and there are a whole set of norms and standards that govern these institutions that governments have signed. So when we engage with the AU, we also try to engage with individual countries to understand whether they are actually meeting their side of the obligation, and also whether AU can also engage with them to just ensure that some of the issues are actually followed through. So one of the things that I just wanted to highlight before I go into the specifics is that one of the strategies that we realize the AU has adopted that has also made it very difficult for us to get the AU to have a voice on some of these issues is that just prioritize the use of regional mechanisms, especially where there's a conflict situation. So the East Africa, if it's a country in East Africa that has a conflict situation, they prefer to, first of all, front the East African community as the first level of engagement. And then when it goes beyond that, then AU becomes the next level. And we have seen that with the Sudan, the conflict in Sudan, where the AU is fronting IGAD. And I think we have seen that in some of the coups that we saw in West Africa, where the AU basically fronted the ECOWAS. And in Zimbabwe, during the elections, I think the AU basically fronted SADC. In 2018, they did that. And then 2023, the last elections, because of the politics around countries and the diplomatic tensions that arise out of some of these things, we realized that actually the voice of SADC itself was muted. They came up with a strong statement towards the end, which we shall talk about briefly. But then it was what has happened thereafter also undermines our advocacy efforts to ensure that human rights issues are addressed. And the challenge we have had with this approach is that some of these regional blocks like ECAS are actually very weak. They're not as strong as, say, ECOWAS, to a point where they can be able to respond to these situations effectively. So allow me now to go back to slide 1. Good, I've learned now. So looking at the conflict situations, the work we have done I've just pictured no single situation that AU has responded very fast. So the general approach has been that first we start with finding a political solution, then go down to the root causes, and then accountability. But what usually happens is that once a political solution has been found, that is basically ensuring a ceasefire. There's a new thing that has come of setting up a coalition government or a national government where both the opposition and the government side come together. So once a political solution has been found and the mechanisms are set for looking at the root causes and accountability issues, nothing seems to move. And when it begins to move, you realize that the EU's role sort of is limited. And then you find that the other organizations or groups from outside the continent are stronger, have a voice than even the EU. And I'll give some examples. So if you take, for example, the South Sudan situation, the 2018 agreement had the Hybrid Court, Truth Commission, Reparations Authority. But then once the political solution was found, where a transitional government was put in place, the issue focused on whether we can have a hybrid court, a Truth Commission, and Reparations Authority to be set up within certain timelines. Once the discussion shifted to this, one of the things we have struggled with is to get on these issues strongly. Because up to now, even when I think from 2018 to this year, the agreement was expiring this year, which I think the government has again found ways of extending it. But by the end of this year, the transitional court should have been the hybrid court should have been in place, and perhaps the accountability measures should have been taking place. However, the government has been reluctant. I think if you have been following what Salva Kiir has been saying, they have not wanted to set up a hybrid court. And they have argued, and because of politics went onto the stage, they front it, they don't give any money. The US, maybe EU, the Troika gives the money, and then the EU sits back. So the South Sudan government has done a lot to undermine these processes. And I think if the AU had been stronger, had had a stronger voice, things would have moved faster in South Sudan, and possibilities for peace would have been higher. Okay, sorry. But that hasn't happened, so that's one of our frustrations there. And we can say the same when we go to elections and governance. Allow me 2 more minutes beyond that. So elections and governance, of course, I don't want to repeat what I've written there, but we have had very many examples on the continent. Starting from East Africa here, Uganda, Tanzania, maybe Kenya, we can count it among those ones that have had very, very disputed elections. But more recently, the ones we worked on, Zimbabwe, I think South Sudan is planning an election in an environment where they actually wanted the elections to happen this year, December, but they had not set up an electoral commission, they had no budget, they had not registered voters, but they were insisting they want to have an election. But they've pushed it to next year. Partners like the EU to come and push. And allow me to just finish by giving one example for Webster's sake of our experiences in Zimbabwe. with elections, and an example of how the system that the AU has in place is good on paper, but doesn't work, and frustrations with us, people who try to do advocacy with the AU. Zimbabwe, what we found was that the civil society could not speak. The government had come up with a lot of laws, including the Patriot Act, which they passed just, I think, days to the elections, weeks to the election, which basically meant that as long as you are a national of Zimbabwe, you cannot go into a meeting like this and speak ill of the government or criticize the government. When you go back, they can arrest you for treason for speaking ill of the government. And it has a lot of other provisions. And they have another law on civil society, which basically tries to reorganize civil society and give government more control on civil society. And the elections were approaching. The opposition party could not hold meetings. I think by May, the government had finished all their primaries. The opposition party had not finished their primaries. And the situation was so bad, people would be kidnapped. And they were hoping that SAD could speak. Assad wasn't speaking. The AU could speak. We even contacted the AU to speak about it. They didn't speak. We contacted the EU and members of the diplomatic community. And their concern was, how do we speak? We need at least a local voice. If it is SADC or the AU, then we add our voice to it. The SADC voice didn't come. We later learned SADC could not speak because in 2018, SADC was, the observation mission had been headed by Thabo Mbeki, who took a very strong stand on that election that year. And that created diplomatic tensions between South Africa. Careful not to speak about the Zimbabwe elections. So this time, SADC team was led by a former vice president of Zambia. They issued a very strong statement, which we applauded, and we hoped that then we would engage them to address some of the issues that arose. But I think, again, diplomatic tension has meant that Zimbabwe is now very careful, does not want to engage on that process. So when engaging within the continent and dealing with the AU, one of the challenges is that the African countries don't want to be held to account. So they actually don't just go after civil society. They also go after fellow governments that take a strong stand against them. And the African Union sort of is incapable of reining in these governments. Thank you.
Thank you. Quite deep there. Facilitation is changing hands in the spirit of African Union's togetherness.
Thank you so much. You have done very well, I must say. But he has just confirmed to me that he's not a very strict timekeeper. And when I look at the program, can you look at the program with me, please? So Pascaline here from IDS, just offering some support to my brother here. He has done well since morning. Yes. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm a little bit strict, so that we do not stay here for long. Now, what time is it? I want people to be up. I can see some faces that are not very up behind there. So what time is it by our watches? East African time. What time? 3:07. Where are we with our program? Mzalendo. So we have 1, 2, 3, if you can count with me. 10 more presentations. We need to listen to 10 more. And we need to do this in the next, how many minutes going by our program? No, we need to be done by 3:30. 23 minutes. So please, Mzalendo Trust, 23 minutes. You are welcome.
Good afternoon. I'll really try to do my presentation within the stipulated time. My name is Frederick Ajok. I work with Mzalendo Trust. I handle communications at Mzalendo Trust. So I'll quickly take us through what Mzalendo is and what Mzalendo does. So Mzalendo is a Swahili term that stands for a patriot in English. So Mzalendo is a premier Kenyan parliamentary monitoring organization that strives to ensure open, accountable, and inclusive parliament in Kenya and across Africa region. So Mzalendo was started in the year 2005. You find that this was a time when the institution of parliament itself did not have a well functioning website. So access to parliamentary information was quite a challenge. So Mzalendo was started to promote access to parliamentary information. So what do we do? So at Mzalendo, so we work under 3 thematic areas. That is openness, accountability, and inclusion. So under inclusion, we train young men and women in politics. We also work with the people living with disability. So in our work of keeping eye on parliament, we do this by creating and maintaining civic tech tools. So these are our tools. So the first one, we have Bonga na Mzalendo. I'll explain that in details in a few. So we have Bonga na Mzalendo, we have Dokeza, then we also have a searchable Hansard, then we have the promise tracker. So what is Dokeza? So Dokeza here was, the creation of Dokeza was informed by the Article 118B of the Kenyan Constitution that sets out the aspect of public participation. So Dokeza is a Swahili, also a Swahili term that means share your idea. So Dokeza is a platform that allows members of the public to share their opinion on a bill or legislations when they are up for public participation. So how do we do it? So when a bill has been read for the first time in parliament, so we will pick that bill and then convert it into a better format, then we upload it into Dokeza. So when it's up for public participation, so the members of the public, you log into Dokeza. That's how Dokeza looks like. So you'll simply log into Dokeza and you'll be able to annotate your comments or views directly on the bill. Or you'll be able to, there's a section up there to submit your memoranda directly on the bill. So this will be captured and then we'll be able to submit that to Parliament. So another thing that Dokeza here does is members of the public are able to follow different stages of the bill. You're able to follow when the bill has been read for the first time, when it's in the second reading stage, committee of the whole stage, or when it has been assented to by the president. So this actually makes it easier for members of the public to interact with what Parliament does. Secondly, we have a Hansard. So a Hansard is simply a verbatim recording of parliamentary proceedings. So our Hansard is links members' profiles to contributions registered in the plenary Hansard. So what Hansard does is, if today I want to know what my member of parliament have been contributing in parliament, so what I'll do, you just search, I'll just come and search the name of my member of parliament, and then everything that they have contributed will come up. Secondly, what Hansard does is it enables you to search different topics. So, for instance, right now, for the first 1 year of the 13th Parliament, if I want to know what Parliament has discussed about issue health, I'll just type the name health and then search. And then everything health will come, the bills, the motions, the statements, and other legislations. Thirdly, we have Bonga na Mzalendo, which is simply an SMS platform that allows members of the public to give their opinions on issues of national interest. Case in point is when we had the finance bill. So these are a free SMS platform where we send out questions to the members of the public, and they are able to share back their opinion. So this it covers 43. We currently cover 43 out of the 47 counties. So once these opinions are captured, and then we will be able to now put them together and submit that to Parliament. And then lastly, we have a promise tracker, which is simply a tool that monitors the implementation of party manifesto promises by both the ruling party and the opposition. So as you can see, so we faced it in 4 stages. We have the first 100 days, the short-term goals, the medium-term goals, and of course the long-term goals. So that is how the tracker looks like. So yeah, you can see those are the number of promises that were given, and those were the currently ongoing, accomplished, and of course we have the broken. Yeah, so in a nutshell, that is what Mzalendo does. You can interact with our work using the following links, and you'll be able to learn more about what we do at Mzalendo Trust. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I hope we've not harassed you, and please bear with me so that we can accommodate everybody in this, right? And like Webster said, please note your comments, your reflections somewhere, and then you can dokeza. For the non-Swahili speakers, you can dokeza, you can share your reflections after. Allow me to introduce Human Rights Awareness and Promotion Forum, HIRAF, if I got it right. You have 6 minutes to make your presentation. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Edward Mwebaza. I am the Deputy Executive Director at HIRAF. And yes, you have said it well. So HIRAF was formed in 2008. And by that time, there were simply lawyers and other professionals who are interested in creating awareness on human rights. In 2009, we did a baseline survey around enforcement and awareness of rights in Uganda, where we found out that sexual minorities were left out in terms of access to justice, but also creation of awareness, and that they experienced significant levels of violence in our community. So we, in 2010, established the very first legal aid clinic providing legal aid services to sexual minorities, and that is in the beginning, LGBT persons and also sex workers, which we champion to expand to other marginalized persons. So essentially, I hope someone is moving because me, I'm not following that one. Our vision is a society where the human rights of all persons, including marginalized groups and key populations, are valued, respected, and protected. And we achieve this through promoting respect of rights, through access to justice, research and advocacy, legal and human rights awareness, community enhancement, and strategic partnerships. And our slogan is taking human rights to all. We have quite a number of objectives, as if someone displays, but so those are our target groups. Can you please go to the target groups? So we have quite expanded our work to cover all these groups, including LGBT persons, intersex persons, sex workers, women and girls, and health service providers in conflict with abortion laws, people who use and inject drugs, people living with HIV, TB, and also refugees. So now our work goes to across. We use what we call an integrated approach, where we give legal support, we create awareness, then we document violence and use that to advocate for rights. We strengthen capacities of organizations of these groups, and then also our own institution. So we do legal representation. So we go to court, we go to police in all centers where clients can be represented. We have a team of lawyers doing that. And then we conduct advocacy, which also includes legal advocacy. So we do a lot of legislative advocacy, speaking about laws, analyzing laws, and providing input to members of parliament when they are passing these laws. But also, we go to court if we feel that there are practices and laws that violate rights. Currently, we are in court to challenge the Anti-Homosexuality Act 2023. And we also chaired the legal committee that filed a case that led to the annulment of the Anti-Homosexuality Act 2014. But we also have filed a case to decriminalize pet offenses in Uganda, and part of it led to the repeal of some sections of the vagrants law in Uganda. We continue to do a lot of research because, like these are controversial issues, and we depend a lot on evidence on the ground, and data for us is a very important tool to start even speaking to the different duty bearers, because they will ask you, one of the things that we have been asked is whether this is true, what we are talking true. For example, there are LGBT persons in Uganda. And we have been substantiating that by documenting violence and providing violations reports. If you follow our activities these days, every month we release a report on violence, escalation of violence against people based on their sexual orientation and gender identity. And we have been analyzing trends of increase in violence because of the new law. So we therefore focus on access to justice as one of our thematic area, advocacy and influencing, community capacity enhancement, and now we have established a new program which is the Center on Law and Marginalization, where we do our strategic litigation research and also providing durable solutions for victims of violations. Now we don't only represent you at court just to resolve your issue or get you out of prison, but also follow the perpetrators of violence and file cases against them to make sure that these do not happen again. So it is really that's who we are. We have also, we engage in regional and international human rights spaces. We have filed so far 2 cases in the East African Court of Justice, both of them on the Anti-Homosexuality Act 2014, and now also this one. And we are not looked at very well in our own country. There's a lot of resistance around this kind of work. When you push boundaries, there are reprisals, of course. And of course, the professor is not here, but the professor seemed to say that civil societies of these days are not doing a lot. And something was ringing in my head. I'm like, has the professor really looked at the environment in which civil society operates these days also, and compared it to the period towards when people were fighting to send away colonialists, because it looks like politicians at that time with civil society, we are working on the same side. In this case, we have politicians working on their own side and society working on their own side. So it is actually civil society and politicians fighting each other. So the space now is quite very critical, narrowed, and I don't really think that civil societies will perform at the same level of that time. Thank you.
Wow. Edward, thank you so much for donating some minutes to the next presenter. And I hope after this 1 week convening, Hiraf is going to do much better than what you are doing now. Thank you so much. Allow me to bring on board the Siasa Place. Wow, we are in Eastern Africa and we are majorly Swahili speakers. Please tell us, who is Siasa Place or where is Siasa Place? You are welcome.
Thank you so much. So I'll request that she projects my presentation. I'm Anastasia Buto from Siasa Place. I'm representing Nerima. So as she's looking for the presentation, I'll just read what I did as my presentation, since I'll talk more when I start. Okay, so there was a mistake on this presentation, not the other part. Okay, so who are we? Siasa Place is a youth-led non-governmental organization established in 2015 that specializes in working with youth and building institutional structures that support youth with mission of promoting youth participation in democratic process through research, training, civic education, networking, and strategic partnership. Next slide. Our pillars in our strategic plan. We launched our strategic plan last year, and we have 3 pillars, that is education, inclusivity, and engagement. So in education, we have a program called Imara Fellowship, supported by Ford. It's a 1-year fellowship where we train young people on policy making. And we have also Write Africa, where we have writers, spoken word artists, and illustrators. On inclusivity, we have published numerous research documents on special interest group engagement and online gender-based violence in the 2022 general election, and the research is on our website. On engagement, we have various initiatives that support public participation and social accountability in 12 counties. Our goal is to realize responsive governance by creating a community of young social justice leaders with a shared value system committed to building a culture of democracy and accountability in business and human rights. So in accountability, where we call like the various leaders in the society, and we call them with their community members, where we engage them through barazas and we listen to people's opinion on how their society is being governed. Problem, as most of African population is young, searching for opportunity is crucial, and many will depend on digital platforms like social media. Additionally, many use digital platforms to raise awareness and highlight issues they face, and very few follow the procedure steps they may have access to constitutionally. This exclusion of youth from participating in governance and policy formulation in Kenya has significant negative impacts on the country's development, democracy, and social cohesion. The outcome is that resultant policy do not reflect the needs and aspiration of young people and their communities. Young people are always ignored when it comes to accountability in the government. Problem. Outcome 1, recruited a young policy and civic leaders who are trained and equipped with value-based and practical skills in policy formulation in regard to the future of work and social accountability. Outcome 2, trained fellows are supported to undertake community sensitization and support initiatives aimed at championing specific policy. That's where we train the Imara fellows for 1 year. They are people from the community, and we train them on how to make their leaders accountable by holding barazas on themselves. Outcome 3, community-centered follow-ups and feedback. We do follow-ups when you engage, like after Imara Fellowship, the Imara leaders now, they will carry out community follow-ups. So we support them to carry out those follow-ups with their leaders plus their society members. Yes, outcome number 4, leveraging on digital media and other partnerships. The youth have access to information on rights and avenues existing in laws they can use to ensure their inclusion in the government process and in agitating for the realization of their social economic rights as embedded in the Constitution. Through training of youth on their importance in involvement in governance, they will know their rights on how to become members of their society in terms of leadership, increased awareness and the need for policies for online workers, and protect and advance fair remuneration, occupational safety, and health and wellness standards. Yes. On our thematic areas, in regards to Agenda 2063, number 1, a high standard of living, quality of life, and well-being for all citizens. We created platforms for community members and duty bearers to engage and solve issues in the community. For example, we have helped different schools to improve the state of abolition blocks in the community. For example, we helped a school in Homa Bay to build, we call them latrines, for the children who study there. So that's part of what we are doing. Well-educated citizens and skills revolution underpinned by science, technology, and innovation. We carry out civic education to CISE, where we take youth through policy making and also the process of voting. Democratic values, practices universal principles of human rights, justice, and the rule of law. Entrenched, the organization has in the past gone to court to stop unconstitutional decisions by government, as well as is currently helping content moderators in their case against the employers. Currently, we are working with the content moderators to ensure that their remuneration is taken care of. It's still in process. Yeah. Full gender equality in all spheres of life. The organization has done research on the state of women participation in government process, as well as released a handbook noting down the experience of women in 2022, where we listed out what women face while they vie for various seats in their counties. Engaged and empowered youth and children. The organization creates both online and physical platforms for youth and their leaders to engage. It also encourages the youth to take part in public participation. Yes, so where we create like online spaces, like X spaces, and we invite youth just to utter what's going in their society. Next slide. Outcomes. I'm not seeing that clearly. Outcome. Increased awareness in public participation, policy formation, and lawmaking process, development of community-centered follow-ups. Yeah, organization of social accountability meetings. So develop research documents that will raise awareness of existing policy, increased awareness of business and human rights issues, specifically pushing for labor rights of digital workers. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Some of us had very sharp eyes. We could see the hidden. Now, Siasa Place, for those who do not know the word Siasa, those who are in Nairobi, those are from, what is Siasa? Politics, eh? And they say they're in 12 counties. I hope you will be able to expand or extend your mandate in more other counties for your work to be felt by the youths of Kenya. Now, with your permission and the permission of my co-facilitator, I feel like, you know, in a classroom, sometimes you may lose your students in our class. These are so many institutions that are speaking, and I feel like I want us to have a very quick Q&A before we listen to the rest of the institutions. With your permission and permission of my co-facilitator. Permission granted. Thank you so much. So any question for East Africa Civil Society Organizations, African Women Global Network, Human Rights Watch, Mzalendo Trust, HIRAF, and Siasa Place. Any quick feedback, comment, question, concern? Over to you. If we can get at least one question from each table. Okay, someone to help me pass the mic to the table behind there. Saina, please. If you can quickly. Thank you so much.
Where's the mic going?
Thank you very much. My name is Minde, and my question or comment is on from Siasa Place and
Siasa Place, a question
and
for you.
Zalendo. I can see some form of synergies between the two, the Promise Tracker and the other one. I think Zalendo also has the same. Maybe you can think of ways in which you can be able to really connect, or maybe you already have those an avenue where you can participate and maybe work together. Maybe that's just a comment or a question. Have you thought, because I can see there is some sort of similarity in the Fortilia Hardy and the other tracker that you have on the promises?
Okay, that's a comment. We are talking about joint collaborations. We are talking about having synergy. So Mzalendo and Siasa Place, you need to work together, if I got him right. Next.
Okay. At the risk of sounding like one of the spooks, I appreciate every presentation that has been done. And I think I would like to take this opportunity to sort of raise something that I think, Nansata, you might speak a little bit more on with regards to advocacy. I think there was a discussion about Zimbabwean elections and the problems that were there during that election. I think a lot of the observations that were made are quite factual, but I think there are some that I think I think they are not factual. I think, for instance, the one trick that the ZANU-PF government used in the last election is to make sure that there is a peaceful environment, to camouflage the plans to rig, basically. So right now, even as civil society in Zimbabwe, we are doing advocacy at SADC, at AU, to challenge the legitimacy of the outcome of that election. The biggest counter-argument from government, but also accepted by SADC officially in its report and AU, is that the environment was peaceful to a point where the opposition was able to do its rallies, right? But certainly, there were a lot of challenges, especially around the inability of the voters to actually make their political choices on the day of voting. In Harare, I think the polling stations, which is a stronghold for the opposition, raise in order to ensure that our arguments have legitimacy. Otherwise, if we also include certain things there, it could sort of undermine the legitimacy of what we are saying. And I hope this is something that we can carry on tomorrow, especially that we are in a data for governance.
True.
Convening. So there must be data and facts for what we are saying. But then again, I said, at the risk of sounding like a spook.
Okay. Thank you so much. Can I request if you can remind us your name and your institution?
Justice.
Justice.
I'm with Laws.Africa.
Thank you so much. I think he's responding.
Thank you. You haven't been active this time. Last year, I think you were very active, so I hadn't noticed you were in the room. Yeah, but I agree with you that the situation, the time there was barely enough to go into the details. We have a report on the website, which we did on what we found. But I agree with you fully that the situation in Zimbabwe was very, very precarious. It was nearly impossible for even the opposition to campaign. I think at the time when we were there, I think the opposition was struggling to even hold meetings. Those ones who were holding meetings even in the houses were being arrested for holding illegal meetings. And outside, they either struggled to get a permit, and when they got the permit, the meetings got disrupted by the police. And because of that, which is what I was trying to hint at, sorry, allow me just a few minutes to explain. I know the time is going.
10 more seconds.
Okay.
Please proceed.
Yeah, so just quickly, because of that, by May or June, the ruling party had finished basically doing its nominations for primaries. But the opposition was yet to begin because they couldn't hold meetings. And that's not accurate? Primaries. Okay, they told us that they had not had any primaries because they couldn't have meetings. Like 62 of their meetings had been disrupted. But what we noticed is that because the opposition stronghold were in the city or in urban centers, the government decided to not open the polling stations, especially for Harare. Most people had gone home on the understanding that they'll vote the next day. And then the next day they were told that people actually voted at night or in the evening. They did not open. Yeah. Yes, so people went home. Yeah, so, and then in the villages, what struck me, we have something called assisted voters here in Kenya. But the way it's applied in Zimbabwe was very surprising. It was more like voter suppression or just basically manipulating the vote, where the traditional leaders became the ones to assist the voters. And then they declared everybody in the village, even high school teachers, as assisted voters. Assisted voters for us here is supposed to be somebody who cannot read and write. But the traditional leaders had a role in basically ensuring that everybody in the village voted for the ruling party.
Thank you so much, Human Rights Watch, for that. Co-facilitator, make sure that at 4 p.m., tea break, we put them together and we can have this conversation and the rest of us can also join. Yakubu, I know you had a question, but I would request you ask in the next panelists, those who are coming next. So thank you so much for that quick session. Allow me to call upon Africa Youth Trust. Africa Youth Trust? Okay, you are welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is not Winfred, but I am going to be doing this presentation. She's a bit under the weather, so I will make this presentation on her behalf. My name is Irma Maringo. I am the head of programs at AYT, which is short for Africa Youth Trust. So this is just an outline of what the presentation will entail. We'll just talk about who we are, our vision, our mission, our key priority areas, and our key areas of interest for lobbying and advocacy program. I would try my best to be as brief as possible. Africa Youth Trust is an independent, non-partisan development and advocacy organization founded in 2005, registered in Kenya as a trust under the Trustees Perpetual Succession Act. Although we are registered here in Kenya, we do operate within the East African community and within the SADC member state countries. So AYT was created specifically to spearhead a youth-led development model in Kenya with a view of replication in other African countries. But you ask yourself, what is actually a youth-led development model? So a youth-led development model is all about young people making a living and a future for themselves and their communities. For us at AYT, we ensure that it involves economic and social investments such as business startups and community improvement projects. our vision, we envision a developed and well-governed Africa, drawing on all energies of all her children, and we exist to harness the productive energies of youth towards peace, equity, and prosperity within and across communities in Africa. So we have 4 thematic areas, which is youth and good governance, livelihood resilience, climate-smart agriculture, and young women's economic empowerment. So for youth and good governance, this pillar focuses on promoting active participation and meaningful involvement of young people in governance processes of their communities and nations. So how do we do this? By combining research and outreach to our network members. Like I said, we do operate within the Eastern and Southern African region. We have formulated country chapters of the East Africa Youth Network. So you'd have our presence in South Sudan, so our presence in Uganda, Burundi, Kenya, and so forth. We also engage and offer evidence-based policy analysis by developing policy briefs, guidebooks, policy-related commentary to youth development partners and private sector. I hope if you were listening keenly to the IACSOF presentation, you'd have seen that we worked very closely together to develop the East African Youth Policy, which I know AYT worked tirelessly for the 10 years, and now we also want to work on reviewing it. But because of purposes of time, I'll just speak into some of the projects that are related to why we're here today in relation to data and governance. So during the election period, we had a digital civic engagement campaign program that was termed My First Vote, which was an aim of amplifying first-time voters to register, enhance youth voting capacity through targeted civic education. So My First Time Vote was keen on 18 and 24 who have no idea what value-based leadership and issue-based politics versus image-based politics. We also looked into democracy and devolution to young people, the technicalities of the election process and peaceful. But as we have seen, now the elections are done, and we noted, the youth voter apathy this 2020, last year's election. And that, again, should take us back to the drawing boards of how we engage within civic education virtually. And one other project that we have been initiating is the Youth Access to State Accountability Program, which what essentially we do is we empower and strengthen the capacity of youth-led and child rights organizations to be and are capacitated within the advocacy spaces. We're able to have a seat at the table and advocate for most of the issues that we face. We saw it fit to, within all our thematic areas, to address some of our areas of interest regarding governance and lobbying program. We did have an ACDEC program where we would use the traditional style of sensitization, but then now we would want to understand how could we shift up the gear and capacitate ourselves and our peers on digital advocacy for its domestication. A lot of young people do not know that this exists, and how can we continue to have that conversation? So we have the Livelihood Resilience Program, where we intend on capacity building and offer trainings. And what we do look at is the labor market and access to TVET courses, market responsiveness, labor market trainings, and so on. We have a radicalization counter-violent extremism program within the coastal region of Kenya, where we essentially capacitate these young people on business skills and entrepreneurship training so that they are not radicalized, and we empower them in that way. And then we link them to various spheres of funding mechanisms. On climate smart agriculture, this pillar focuses on innovative approaches to farming that seeks to address the challenges posed by climate change. So we're very keen on increasing access to skills development and training services that will empower smallholder farmers to access sustainable value chains and inclusive markets. So we were looking at the value chains that include poultry farming, soya beans, nuts, and sorghum. I will quickly move on to the areas of interest in relation to the D4G program would be installation of weather forecasting stations and increasing farmer knowledge on effective utilization of weather and climate data and information to guide their farmers' preparation. The final thematic area is young women's empowerment, and this looks into improving the knowledge and international human rights standards, particularly those related to non-discrimination and equality for young women. So I will just move on and look into a program that we have. It's called the Access to Justice and Security program, where we the goal is to increase the justice and security for women and girls living in informal settlement by connecting them to by connecting women and girls experiencing sexual and gender-based violence to legal, medical, and psychosocial support through our innovative mobile technology, whereby they SMS the word help to 21094, and then they are linked to either those medical, legal, and psychosocial support. And some of the types of cases reported as of January till date, we have the attempted defilement, defilement of boys, defilement of girls, rape, physical abuse, domestic violence, COVID-19 related. Those that would want to be offered financial support, and child neglect. So when we look through the data that we receive from this informs our policy and advocacy initiatives, as we do chair the GBV technical working groups. And finally, we have the Women's Economic Empowerment program, where we worked very closely with the Nairobi University and Kenyatta University WeHub to develop the advocacy strategy for women's economic empowerment, whereby this research attempt to look into the Affirmative Action Fund, the unpaid care work, also for the women working in informal and formal sectors, violence and crisis, and the women's movement. So in terms of advocacy, AYT really spearheads and sort of sees on how to champion for the rights of young people and not also leaving the young women behind. And just finally, as I highlight, one out of the 6 areas of advocacy interest within a gender equality and advocacy program, we realize there's a disconnect between the researchers, implementers, and advocates, especially around women's economic empowerment. Also in relation to the gender domains and in education and health, and there's a lack of that intake and the related data on that same space. So we'd want to see how best can we engage and strengthen that as we continue the work that we do. So that concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much. Hirma and AYT, please thank Winnie on our behalf for putting the presentation together. And I hope you all remember the SMS help number. Do you remember what has she said? When she mentioned a certain number where we can send, which number? I thought she was so good to start us off this afternoon session. We haven't regained enough energy to take us through the final session this afternoon. Which number? 21094. Is she correct? I think she deserves a gift after this. Thank you. Now, quickly, Eastern Africa Child's Rights Network. 6 minutes to make your presentation. You'll try. Thank you. She's saying she's going to make it shorter. Co-facilitator, we lost some time after lunch, so you hope you can give us more time after this.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Delphine Nyanchama. I'm going to make a presentation for the Eastern Africa Child Rights Network on behalf of our Executive Director, Mr. Benedict Omilo, who is out of the country. So this is our profile. I'm going to be as fast as I can. So we are a network of CSOs in the Eastern Africa region advocating for the children's rights. Our mandate is to implement programs that are focused on the realization of children's rights as contained on the African Charter on the Rights and the Welfare of the Children and the United Nations Convention on the Rights and the Welfare of the Children. Our vision and mission, I'll skip that because of time, but we have a beautiful website. You can log on to www.escrn.net, then you'll find all this there. Next one, our strategic focus areas. Our goal 1, according to our SP, is strengthening the capacities of member coalitions, promoting evidence-based policy advocacy on child rights governance. Number 2 is building sustainable partnerships and improving working collaboration with child protection actors in Eastern and Southern Africa. So you realize we work with various networks, regional networks, that is from South Africa, from West Africa, to advocate for children's rights. Number 3 is to promote child protection processes in Eastern Africa through policy advocacy actions on child rights. Number 4, to strengthen the institutional capacity of ECRN network and member coalitions. So in this, the next one, I will be demonstrating all our member organizations and the networks that we work together with. Then number 5, we have to build evidence on child rights through research and promote knowledge management, learning for the ESRN network and national member coalitions. This one will be our key collaboration point, whereby we really need help in those research and data governance. So that is why we are basically here. So we really need to learn more and to be equipped with proper skills on research so that we can properly advocate for children's rights. Because if we don't advocate for children's rights, then we are raising a generation that will not be able to stand for themselves in future. So these are the member coalitions, our national coalitions that we're working. We realize we are a regional network, so we work with various coalitions from different regions and in different countries. So in Kenya, we are working with CAC, which is the Kenya Alliance for Advancement of Children's Rights. Then in Uganda, we have the UCRNN, which is the Uganda Child Rights Network, NGO network. Then we have a Child Rights Civil Society in South Sudan, and we also have Sudan Child Rights Forum. Then we also have a Somaliland Rights Forum, Child Rights Forum. Then we have TCRF, which is the Tanzania Child Rights Forum. We have Omwana Kwisonga, which is the Rwanda Coalition. And we have the Burundi Child Rights Forum, which is the BCRF. And we have Burundi Child Rights Coalition, which is the BCRC, and Madagascar. And we are slowly moving to other areas. We actually having another workshop in Ethiopia to see whether we can set a child rights network there so that we can advocate for child rights in that region. Then the next part, in regard to why we are here, our thematic areas that we are focusing on are youth empowerment and involvement, because we believe in involving youth in children's rights advocacy. Because if we don't empower the youth to advocate for children's rights, then they will get older and they will leave no other generation that will be like advocating for a better society and creating an environment whereby they can live comfortably. So we believe in empowering youth and even encouraging them to participate more on advocating on children's rights. So under that, we've been able to do we've been able to achieve the following. We collaborated with the AYT in preparation and development of youth and children's indicator for global partners on development effectiveness, that is GPEDC. Then secondly, we did a capacity building on policy advocacy and engagement with regional CSOs, advocacy platforms in collaboration with Horn of Africa and the East Africa Youth Network. Number 3, we initiated a youth engagement in child rights advocacy and engagement with the African Committee of Experts on the Rights and the Welfare of Children. On child welfare, which is our main thematic area, we collaborated with child rights CSOs to advocate for the implementation of the Children Acts 2022. Secondly, we collaborated with CRINSA, that is the Child Rights Network of South Africa, during the Day of the African Child, and in the CSO Forum. Actually, currently, our ED and the whole secretariat team are in Addis Ababa for the CSO Forum. The CSO Forum is a forum that brings together CSOs that are advocating for children's rights to come and together share ideas on how they can better advocate for children's rights in various regions of Africa so that they can promote an Africa fit for every child. Then, and in engagement with the African Committee of Experts on the Welfare and Rights of Children. Actually, in that forum, there are going to be sessions and children are going to be present. Not just present, but they are going to be allowed to participate. And after participation, it doesn't end. Their ideas are used to come up with advocacy and implementation of various policies. So this forum is very important because we are working with this committee of experts. Then thirdly, we are working towards establishing a child rights network in Ethiopia, whereby I've said the civic space workshop, which is going to be held there immediately after the CSO forum. Then we have partnered with Somalia to set up a child rights network. Realize Somalia has been facing a lot of issues, and we believe in advocating for children in humanitarian regions because they go through a lot. So we really need to come up with this and conversation around going, and we hope we can collaborate more with different actors who are present here to bring that to realization. Then we partner with key Pan-African organizations like IHRDA, African Child Policy Forum, and the YACSOF to build capacity of its members in policy advocacy. Then lastly, but not least, child-led initiative with the support from CSI. Currently, we are working on this child-led initiative. It is an initiative whereby we are working with different regions to come up with policies that are child-led, or to come up with advocacy tools that focus more on children. Because if we empower the children, then we empower the whole society. We empower human beings that can stand up and stand for the truth and work towards realizing their goals and even creating a proper society. If you raise a child well, then that means the future is bright. If we were not raised well, then maybe we could not be here. So if we empower children, then the future is secured. So our major areas that we are really seeking for partnership is we seek to partner with D4 Data for Governance so that they can build our capacities on research and utilize the data for child rights reporting. Then area 2 will be to improve child protection processes and build capacities for national coalitions on data advocacy on child rights. So you can connect with us, and thank you so much for listening.
I think she did very well in terms of presentation and time management, right? Do you agree with me? Thank you so much. Thank the director on our behalf. Katiba Institute, your 6 minutes begin now. Yeah, I'm also reminded that Katiba is also a Swahili word. What does it mean? Constitution. You got it? Thank you. Please, who is Katiba Institute?
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Eileen. I hope I can be heard. I am an advocate, and at Katiba Institute, I handle litigation, specifically countering violent extremism in Kenya, and that is where my department is. Our executive director could not be here, but she sent me. I hope I represent her well. So Katiba Institute is a research institution. Katiba Institute is a research and litigation institution established in 2011 with the mission of supporting the implementation of Kenya's 2010 constitution, helping to resist efforts to undermine that constitution, and generally to assist in developing a culture of constitutionalism in Kenya. For those who understand Kenya's constitutional journey, we promulgated our constitution in 2010, and the people who are involved in the constitutional making process, including the chairperson of the constitutional making process, Professor Yash Palgai, we are privileged to have him as one of our founders, as well as Professor Jill Cottrell-Guy and Waikwa Wanyoike. I will just talk about our vision and our mission and our slogan. It is as indicated there, but perhaps I could just mention that as part of our vision in establishing constitutionalism in Kenya, we believe that to achieve social transformation through the Constitution by promoting its implementation, we need to develop a culture of constitutionalism and use the Constitution as an instrument of change. So most of our work is centered around our Constitution, and our projects are geared towards achieving the realization of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. We have these overarching strategic approaches that we implement in our work. Perhaps most of you know us mostly through public interest litigation, or at least I hope so. I think we've done a stellar job in terms of building a presence around public interest litigation. But we also engage in research and publication. We have published a lot of information. If you need information on the Constitution or anything, any topical issues, feel free to visit our offices at off Parklands Road, Crescent Lane, and we'll be sure to hook you up as long as the publications are in stock. We offer technical support in a lot of situations. It just doesn't mean that we go to court all the time. Sometimes when capacity doesn't allow, we will be called upon to give technical support in the background, which we are happy to do most of the time. Partnerships and community outreach. I'll talk a bit more about the overarching strategy under here while I'm referring to the advent of the social justice movements and the role that we are proud to have played in contributing to the development of the movement. We also do access to information and constitutional education. Constitutional education is pretty clear. Access to information, most of you have interacted with this under the ATI, access to information letters, which are anchored under Article 35 of the Constitution in accessing the information held by duty bearers as espoused by the Constitution. We have these pillars and strategic areas that we have found that our work is founded on. Good governance, rule of law, leadership, integrity and accountability, devolution, fundamental rights and freedoms, environmental justice, natural resources, climate change and governance. As I discussed their work, we believe that major shortcomings of the Constitution can still exist, and we employ these core strategies in achieving all these gains through our strategic areas. We were asked to talk about how we see our strategies or our core work interacting with what the objectives of the Data for Governance project is about. And I just want to highlight a few areas that our strategic area 1, which is in good governance, under this pillar we address issues of preservation of and implementation of the Constitution, electoral justice and reforms, effective civic engagement, judicial independence and integrity, anti-corruption and accountability and compliance with court orders. We see this area as marrying with thematic area 1, which is on the Pan-African perception of unconstitutional change of governance, and area 4 on elections. And we are happy to know that these areas are in line with the AU's Agenda 2063, and we are committing to collaborating with like-minded CSOs in achieving this. Our strategic area 2 is devolution, and it makes sense that it's not part of the specific thematic areas highlighted, but I think it's an area that feeds into the thread of what the thematic areas that we aim to achieve as we go on our work as CSOs and as regional institutions. I'll just talk about lastly what we were asked to comment about, and that would be the opportunities that as Katiba Institute we foresee as areas of collaboration. First of all, we have participated in trainings on the African human rights mechanisms, the regional human rights mechanisms. We have had the privilege of participating in accelerating the ratification and domestication of African Union trainings. And maybe once in a while, we submit comments on human rights bodies and special rapporteur calls for comments. We are here and we hope that we will be able to participate in the ongoing process, and particularly I'm very interested in promoting public data-based advocacy and engagement between the African CSOs and the African Union. So before we go anywhere, I just want to apologize. I'll ask a lot of questions because my assignment was to find out how we can interact with the African Union and finding out what the direct mechanisms are for achieving that. Otherwise, I'm very happy to have this invitation, and thank you. Looking forward to the week.
Wow, that was quite super. She deserves to be called a super time manager. We can now confirm to the Executive Director, Madam Christine, that she did very well, right? Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Kenya Private Sector Alliance. You are welcome. Yes. We can give her that task. You're welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Susan Nganga from Kenya Private Sector Alliance Foundation. Many people get shocked to hear that KEPSA has a foundation. I work at the foundation. And anyhow, let me just use what I have. Or is it coming? KEPSA Foundation is the legal entity of and the social arm of Kenya Private Sector Alliance. The Kenya Private Sector Alliance business. And the foundation is registered at the Trustees Act in Kenya, whose mission is to provide the private sector platform for socio-economic transformation aimed at strengthening the business environment. It was launched in 2015 to champion. It's you can't hear. Okay, it was launched on 2015 to champion the socio-economic transformation of Kenya through partnership with government, county governments, and all other local, international, and international organizations that shared common objectives. Why the foundation was formed? It's because we realized at KEPSA there are some activities that went at the KEPSA industry. That's what we called it, and most of it was social. And when you know about KEPSA, it is all about business. And sometimes you ask yourself if these socio-economic activities really are profit, because most of the businesses ask for profit. And that's why this was formed, so that it can champion some of these activities that seemed more to be social. At KEPSA Foundation, our priority areas is governance, climate action and sustainability, community outreach and partnerships and networks, women empowerment, leadership and childcare. And I'm so happy to listen to most of the presentations here that we share a common goal. It's just that the names are almost similar, but we are doing the same thing. And today, dwelt on wajibu wangu. That is my responsibility. And also we have participated in the political debates in the country. We have another initiative at, on Bribery Act, which we are doing with SIPE, that is Center for International Private Enterprise, on the Bribery Act. We sought to mobilize the private sector to be champions of ethics and integrity. Another one we have is still with SIPE, is improving infospace integrity in the private sector. And that is what the foundation is doing. Like we disseminated a study on improving integrity of the information space on businesses, because we realized that business really get affected with misinformation. Once someone will wake up one day and say, your business is this, and that is what goes to the social media, and we don't know what to do. We have a business case here about ABL. They had a case where someone woke up one day and said one of their products, which is Chrome Gene, I know most of us know it, that it was not genuine, and this really affected this product. I'm moving very fast because someone is looking at me with those eyes. So in partnership with SIPE, we undertake to develop a policy framework that is still in 2024 to establish a fact-check unit at KEPSA Foundation Knowledge Center to address that and champion for infospace integrity through a multi-stakeholder approach. It will ensure enhanced knowledge on infospace integrity for our private sector members. And that's all what I had. And you can visit our website. We have much more at our website. Thank you.
Wow. Wow, people at the front here are not clapping. That was KEPSA for you. We can confirm to Ms. Caro Kariuki that she has been represented well, right? I hope the Kenyans in this room identify with the Kenya Daima pillars. Is that so? Yes. What did she say? Kagua kabla ya kuchagua. Do you remember? Kagua kabla ya kuchagua. Yakubu and the rest. I hope you are learning some Swahili before you leave this 1 week convening. Kagua kabla ya kuchagua. Did you hear that? You vet before you elect or you vote. Wajibu wangu na wajibu wetu. I hope we can identify with this come 2027. Kenyans know what is happening in 2027. International Crisis Group. We have 3 more presentations. My co-facilitator, can you confirm from the back there that we still have more energy to continue with the next 3 presenters?
Let's do and finish them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Asante. Asante is
3 presentations, it means 3 times 6, 18 minutes, we are done.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That's why we are doing this together. International Crisis Group, are you in the room? Okay, she is Afrique Hub. She is Afrique Hub. I hope I got it right. You are welcome. 6 minutes.
Good evening. Can you see? Okay. My name is Martha Njoki. I'm the founder of She's Africa Hub and also the executive director. So She's Africa Hub is a community-based organization based in Kiambu County, Githunguri. So I came up with the organization having volunteered and worked with the rural and informal settlements here in Kenya. After deferring out of law school, I realized that a lot of rural communities lack basic legal information and civic education. So together with a group of 7, we founded She's Africa Hub. Most of the people say that it has some French brand. So our mission is to inform, inspire, and impact the youth and women in grassroots community. I believe I'm the one who has come from Mashinani here. And also our vision is to inform, inspire, and impact grassroots communities into informed and knowledgeable hubs equipped with adequate tools for collection, processing, and interpretation of information to make we can't see that, informed decision to enhance meaningful engagement for positive transformation. So our pillars of engagement involve legal education. We believe that the law is critical and crucial tool for driving social change. So we engage the women groups, commonly known as chamas, and also youth groups. We teach them on succession matters, basic family law, basic constitutional rights. You'll find that in rural areas like in Githunguri, you'll find that women are harassed by these small microfinances. You'll get women coming and they tell you that my cows have been taken. You ask them, is there any evidence to show that you signed a contract with that microfinance? And they tell you they don't have that contract. And so we saw the need for them to teach them about basic contract making agreements. And also under the civic engagement, we hold town halls meetings. We engage them with matters, county and national government. Also, we have drafted a petition to the County Assembly of Kiambu, where a budget was provided for the construction of a primary school, but the County Assembly never implemented that. So with the help of the community and the parents of the peoples, we drafted a petition to the County Assembly to implement the project in the school. Also, empowerment campaigns. We empower the youth back there in Our pillars of engagement involve mentorship of the youth and children in schools. So we believe that intergenerational engagement plays a crucial role in the transfer of knowledge. We seek to partner with professionals and community members to inspire the upcoming generation. So I want to anchor Pascaline that I'm a product of Siasa Place. So Siasa Place enabled me to go to Busia, Kisumu to do civic education, and also inspired me to start the community-based organization. Also, under mentorship, we are partnering with Salzburg Global Seminar in Austria on how we can empower children in schools on how to fact-check information, because in this day and age, you'll get there's a lot of disinformation and misinformation. Also, we are working with DW Academy on how to amplify the voices of women in rural areas. So the nexus with the thematic areas under the Data for Alliance Governance is access to justice. We want to make justice affordable and reachable to the marginalized communities. Also, youth empowerment and involvement. We promote youth political participation, where also I act as the Secretary General of the Young Aspirants Kenya. We promote youth political participation by also drafting petitions. We drafted a petition on we were against the law about qualifications of the MCAs having a degree, so we petitioned that. And also we hold press briefings on issues of concern. And also elections, we were involved in youth mobilization in Kiambu County. Thank you, and I would like to end with a quote that content is king, engagement is queen, and the lady rules. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. Josephine, did you hear that for your publicity purposes? At the back, you did. She mentioned the word chama. Chama is a Swahili word, which is synonymous with women back in Kenya. Merry-go-round. It's merry-go-round. Am I right? Merry-go-round. I also hear that men are also starting their own merry-go-rounds. One of them here is confirming that they do not survive. The merry-go-rounds do not survive. And this is for Josephine for her publicity purposes on social media. Now, ladies and gentlemen, borrowing from the UN concept of leave no one behind, allow me to introduce the Center for Strategic Litigation. I hope you are here. Oh, thank you, gentlemen. You are much welcome.
So thank you very much. My name is Nicodemus Minde. At the university, they call me Dr. Minde, but I don't like to use the name doctor in settings that are not academic. So I'll just go by the name Minde. I work for the Center for Strategic Litigation, which is based in Zanzibar, Tanzania. And since we are just giving some sort of a background to what we do, at the Center of Strategic Litigation, which began in 2019, at the height, of course, for those of us who understand a bit of history of the political history of Tanzania, in the past few years, the country was going through a very turbulent political period where there was a suppression of the media, civil rights, and all that. So in 2019, the Center for Strategic Litigation began as an institution that is a bridge or anchors advocacy, research, and litigation. So how do I go next? All right. But I'll speak. So as I said, the Center for Strategic Litigation. All right. Okay. 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 So the Center for Strategic Litigation is a not-for-profit organization that actually seeks to advance the vision of a just, tolerant society and a vibrant, inclusive democracy grounded on the respect of rule of law and justice for all. And I've said we are based in, we are based in Zanzibar. And some of the vision, as I've mentioned, is to build this very resilient and vibrant democracy, and inclusive democracy based on the rule of law. As I've mentioned to you, in the past 6-7 years or so, Tanzania experienced this very turbulent political period. But again, it depends on who you ask. But for those of us who worked in democracy, civil society, and human rights, it was very turbulent. So the vision of our organization is actually to build this form of vibrant and inclusive society. Unlike our neighbors, Kenya, Tanzania is also going through a constitutional review, which has been stalling for over 10 years now. So our mission is also to promote a constitutional culture in which the promotion of justice for all and the rule of law, which again are very essential in the democratic pillars and building democratic states. And the reason why we exist, again, is tied to that central pillar of constitutionalism, where we see it as the supreme organ of the country. But of course, is to also do a lot of civic and litigation around issues around the enforcement of legislation that have threatened the enjoyment of certain fundamental rights and freedom. So the key areas that we actually work on are knowledge, evidence, analysis, and public interest litigation. The rule of law and constitutionalism is in Tanzania. We have also done work around nurturing and developing an active cadre of public interest litigants, because we have a program that actually, an East African program that trains public interest litigants across the 4 East African countries, that is Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, and Burundi. And again, I'm told the organization has become the center of, the center for convening public interest litigants across the region. And we have also done, actively challenged through litigation and advocacy of laws, practices and promote impunity and violate constitution and fundamental freedoms. Because I was asked to look at how our work contributes to the 5 thematic areas, and I'll be very brief on that. In the past 2 years, we have been holding what we call the Africa Drive for Democracy conference, in which we have also partnered with the Afrobarometer, for example, where we are actually doing a lot of work around challenging or what we are calling the democratic backslide through renewed action and solidarity. And again, in this year, we also had another conference, and which I ask some of you to also to take interest in, where we are having conversations around documentation of democratic trends in Africa. And that is why we need partners such as Afrobarometer, the African Democratic Community, as well as actions by democratic actors ranging from litigation, as I've mentioned, campaign, grassroots mobilization in response to democratic decline in the continent. And lastly, we have also been working through our work in research and litigation around the question of youth empowerment and involvement. But again, the Center for Strategic Litigation has done a lot of work around advocacy and election monitoring in Tanzania in 2020, which was, in all honesty, was a farce of an election. And then again, this year we had an elders retreat. So this elders retreat is a convening of former heads of state. So you don't just want to engage policy practitioners as well as academics, but also want to bring the decision makers. So we actually brought 4 former heads of state. This is African former heads of state under the umbrella of the Africa Drive for Democracy Institute, which tries to now advocate this from a very high level in terms of policy and advocacy. I'll pause there. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so much. Don't joke around with litigators. Minda there with the CSL work. And ladies and gentlemen, how much more time do you want us to have for the Q&A? Very quick. This is going to be very participatory. How much more time? How many more minutes? With your permission? We are good. We look good. It's been a very insightful afternoon. My co-facilitator, please come forward. As I hand over this mic back to you, please confirm. You'll pay for that. Huh? As I hand over the mic back to you, please confirm that the presenters have done very well this afternoon. And 2, that all the presentations.
Not only the presenter, but you are such a wonderful facilitator.
Oh. Thank you.
You know, I don't think we were going to finish on time. You see, sometimes things just happen. The magic of a good facilitator is to identify another one.
Can you please confirm to the team that you pulled me from my comfort back there?
Tell you, this was not even planned. I just went back there and said, what's going to happen now? You are going to take over and you are the next facilitator for the next sessions. And luckily, I don't think I was going to beat time like she did, because most of the presenters, apparently I didn't know the directors and co-directors or representatives were actually ladies. And she knew how to deal with the agenda.
So you can confirm it was a ladies' afternoon?
Not only a ladies' afternoon. Yes. In this platform, this is a ladies' world.
Wow, thank you so much, Women Empowerment. Can you also confirm to the group that you are going to share, they are going to get all the presentations to everybody, including those who switched off, those who dozed off, those who are not very attentive, that they are going to get all the presentations. Thank you so much, and I hand over the mic back to you. We can enjoy the 4 p.m. tea. Thank
Most
you.
welcome. Thank you for the afternoon. This became a very long afternoon, but a very rich afternoon. We are going to continue these conversations. The purpose is to network. And almost all the presentations made, we were referred to websites. Let us also share our X accounts, the Twitter accounts, and other accounts that we have where we need to amplify our voices. Let us be the people we were waiting for in this networking. I don't know if there are any special announcements, Douglas, but besides that, I come from a British colony, and the former prince, who is now king, was here recently. Here there is tea outside. And you may actually get English tea that came from Kericho.
Let's appreciate our facilitator for today. Yes, and also let's appreciate ourselves for putting in the hours and getting up to these points. Yes, thank you. I know this day has been long. Day one is always hard, but we are so proud of you. And thank you also for being part of this. So we're going to have tea outside. It's already served there as we network. And then the program starts tomorrow. As usual, let's be seated by 8:30. Then I wish you a very good evening, and I hope to see you tomorrow. For those people who have not seen Naomi, see Naomi on your way out. But I think we have done 99%. We are so proud of you, and we'll see you tomorrow morning, right? Thank you.
We also clap hands for you, Douglas. First day, you are still energetic, yet you actually received me at midnight. You have done fantastic work, and you are a good ambassador for East African region.
Yeah,